Hello, everyone out in the old internet world. RD is joining me again tonight for a TurfCast. We know that it's Monday Night Football tonight. I think it's the first week. I don't know why we planned this, but that's just exactly what we always do. We have no plan, so that's correct, right, RD?
Listen, I'm not going to say that we exclude Broncos and Seahawks fan, but I'm over here on this side of the country. I follow real football east of the Mississippi, so it's just the way I roll. And listen, I think this I can say without any untrue statements. This is the first time in 18 years the Browns are 1-0, if you can believe that. So I today am a happy person, very happy
I
person,
didn't
and
really I didn't really follow much of what went on yesterday except for the game that I
uh,
was watching. So
I watched the game yesterday, and let me tell you what. There are probably disgruntled fry cooks at McDonald's that looked more engaged in their job than Aaron Rodgers did yesterday. So if you're a Packers fan, I feel for you, but my goodness, yeah. Listen, he kind of looks like, he maybe we just did a big seed project or something like that, and it just rained and washed everything away. We all know that feeling, except for he had to show up with no receivers and kind of a suspect offensive line. So, hey, it's
and
it's
some
good to
kind
be
of
talking.
haircut
What?
now that I'm not sure what he's going for, but it's
You
very
know what? I
interesting.
I think I saw that haircut and I thought to myself, man, if we could only get RK and Connor to have that contest, not the mullet, but up top where we can put a little bow up here in the top, like a little ponytail. I
Mhm.
think you guys would wreck it. I think it'd be great. So we'll call Connor up here after the show and challenge him and just say, "Hey, man, the mullet's all well and good, but I bet you can't, do a mini pony in the back here come next spring."
I don't think we should actually egg him on because he will definitely do that. There's no
I
doubt
know
about it.
that's
And
the
then he's going to
point.
force
Don't
me
tell
to
him.
do it. And
Don't
I
tell
don't
him.
think I want to do that. I just don't think I want to do that.
You would look. There's. I'm trying to think. There was a guy, a celebrity, like Oscar Isaac, the guy who's in like some of the Star Wars movies, the most recent ones. He had a period where he had that whole haircut going on. Like down below the ears, but then the pony. It's a weird look, man. That's a weird look.
Well, the thing with Rodgers is that it looks very uneven. Almost like one side is like longer than the other or something. I didn't get
Maybe
it, but
remember like people of a certain age will know this, but the kid rappers crisscross, wearing your clothes backwards and all that stuff. Maybe this
mhm.
is just part of the way that the world is cycling back to RK. And listen, look at you. You were trying to bring Kentucky 31 back. So
Yeah.
what was old again is once again new, and here we are. You may start a craze, although I can't be part and party to it. Not at this juncture. I don't think I'm
I'm
going to
going to
climb on that
say
train.
it has surprised me that it has looked better than I anticipated it would because I've seen some bad stuff in my day, but maybe we can attribute it to our beautiful Iowa soil out there. I'm not really sure, but something's going on with that
You know,
K31. It's not as bad as I thought.
I was thinking about you the other day because a contractor friend of mine called me, and we were talking briefly, and he's like, "Oh, I've got a truck showing up here. He's a seed installer. He does big seed jobs, sod jobs, all that kind of stuff." And he said, "Oh, I got a delivery truck showing up here. I got to go." I said, "Oh, would you get?" Just figuring it's his normal spec mix, and he's like, "Oh, I got an entire truckload of Kentucky 31 for this warehouse complex that has like a special seed mix. It was 80% Kentucky 31 and 20% Italian rye.
Oh,
Why I don't know, but somebody got a little exotic there on the mix. So I didn't have a
have
chance
you
to
ever
ask him
seen
with
that
that caution.
before?
80/20 is pretty common. 80 of like what they call
But that
you know
specific rye, like,
oh, an Italian rye? Yeah, I mean in
yeah.
different mixes, but not as 20% of an 80/20 turf type tall fescue and or tall fescue in this case, and 20% rye. I've never seen that blend or mixture rather as part of a seed spec. So, like I said, it's either one of two things. Some landscape architect got really cute um, and did that, and I don't think so because actually I talked to the seed supplier who I also know, and I said, I asked him after the fact, I was like, hey, what's the deal with that? And he was like, He's like, actually, we tried to like substitute and just put perennial rye at first and then annual rye, and both times they rejected it. So either they were just looking at the words on the page and didn't see Italian, or, like I said, somebody got a bug up their butt and was like, yeah, man, we're going to do Italian rye and Kentucky 31. It's like going to Golden Corral when they have spaghetti and then you get like fried chicken next to it. You're going to mix the Italian with the Kentucky. It's everything.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I've never been to Golden Corral.
I've actually never been to Golden Corral. I've been to Sizzler before. Never been to Golden Corral. Have no desire to stick my digits, mouth, or any other part of my body, appendages or otherwise, near the chocolate fountain. It kind of freaks me out. And with that being said, I don't know where else to go other than to say, let's talk grass. So listen, I have I got a story here real quick of the field that's actually behind me here. So this is one of the Bermuda fields that we did that opened up a couple weeks ago. I talked about it on the show. If you are a loyal TurfCast listener, first of all, thank you for being here. Secondly, this is the field that lost power. I told the story about this a couple episodes ago about we lost power literally the day that we sprigged and had to like scramble and go rent a big generator, like a towable one, and then didn't have it wasn't the right time for the controller, so we had trouble running irrigation first. Long story short, it turned out great. But talking to the football coach the morning of the game, and he walks out there. He's an old timer. He's kind of come back to coach his last 4 or 5 years at his alma mater there, and he's coached all over for like 40 years. So been around, seen a lot, and he's sitting there talking to me, blah, blah, blah. And he gets done. He's like, okay, I got to get going here. And he's like, hey, Ryan. I said, yeah. He's like, I just got to tell you, I've never seen an old girl look so good in a new dress in my entire life, man. And he gave me this wink and smile. And he just turned around and walked away. I'm like, oh, man, like, that comment could have been anywhere from crude to, very complimentary. But I took it more on the latter than the former. But still, it was pretty funny to hear him say that. And, so anyway, long story short,
and then just mic drop.
He didn't walk away. He didn't wait. He didn't wait for the response. It was a total mic drop, walk off the stage. He knew what he was doing. It was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty good. So, but yeah.
So for those of us, I'll just let everybody know here. For those of you joining tonight who might be watching and are not a member, this is members only chat. So if you want to participate in that, you can go ahead and join and become a member. The reason we do that is just to try to make sure everybody gets their question answered and it doesn't get too crazy there in the comments section. So if you want to become a member, head over to my channel and go ahead and click the join button. If you're on iOS, you're going to have to go through the browser. I believe there's still some sort of weird bug that Apple cannot seem to figure out there. So
I don't think it's a bug. I just think it's Tim Cook, doing
it's on purpose then.
The troll, the heavy duty multi-billion dollar troll job. You got to respect the commitment there. Thank you, Tim.
J Pink says it is Google being greedy and it's not Apple's fault. So he's
an Apple apologist. He's an Apple apologist. But for those of you that don't know who if we're talking about J Pink is our wonderfully exquisite and behind the curtain. If he wasn't here, none of this would be tin cans, and you all might be able to listen with somewhere near 28.8K quality.
I'm trying to mute you, DeMay, but it just isn't sticking.
It's not working. It's not working. I can't
he's
give
just
you the
man behind the curtain. He just speaks like he's in Oz right now. So.
He is. Okay. So, for those of you that are TurfCast listeners, again, thank you for being here. If you don't know about the TurfCast, you can always go ahead and visit RK's website and take a peek at that. I believe it's under the podcast tab, or if you just go to simplecast.com and search for the Ryan Knorr podcast, it's under there. We've recorded, RK, I think about 30 or so of these over the last 2+ years. We get on here, we chit-chat. It's some BS, there's always some football mixed in. There's some weather talk usually. We got to have some weather talk because we're from the Midwest.
Yeah.
And
Haven't
what
done
better
that yet.
subject to start to be the the beginning, the middle, and the end of a conversation, right? As the weather. And then we try to answer questions on here because typically we'll get user submitted questions through email and some other communication means, but we chose to do this live thing about once a month, and we've been okay with it. The summer was a little bit busy. We'll have a little bit more time, but we wanted to get on here tonight because I'm sure, RK, as we always say, this is the beginning of the fiscal year. If you're in cool season territory, right? Time to build roots, time to reestablish a lawn, time to overseed, all those kind of things. And so we just wanted to be available to our members, talk a little bit, chit chat, and go from there. So if you have questions and you're a member, go ahead and dump those into the chat. We've got a few that were submitted to us via Instagram and some other stuff, and we'll kind of just pitter patter along and pick those up along the way. But RK, I have to ask the question about the grass of the future. What a stunning title, first of all. I appreciate that. And secondly, I guess we've talked a little bit about you. Well, last year we talked all about your plots, and I came away from that being like, holy crap, this guy's going to do it. And then you sent me the plan over, and then I even more, I was like, oh my gosh, he's really going to do it. And so I want to understand the decision to do what you did. If you want to explain to folks and just go ahead and tease, I don't want to spill the beans on the video that just came out if you haven't watched it, but go ahead and tell us a little bit more. Pull back the curtain a little bit. I want to hear the why. Mm-hmm. I love when you explain the why.
Well, I was standing back today looking at everything as I just mowed today, and everything looked nice and clean. And I was like, this is actually turning into a pretty cool little area. And a lot of people at the beginning, I think, really did not understand what I was up to, but that is not uncommon because I have some, crazy grass tendencies, and it takes a while for everybody to get on board with what I'm doing. But the whole point now, I guess I would say I'm 1 year in on my normal plots on the 6 that are the grass types, the ones that I sell, and those are going to stay there long term. I know RD and I talked about on our last TurfCast really having a spot where I don't want to do a whole lot to those or change them or renovate them, just kind of let them over the next few years here be what they're going to be and show you more of a long-term situation there. So that's that part. But then of course I'm doing some fun weird stuff with some micro clover now, putting some clover into the turf. I have a turf type tall fescue and clover mix plot, and that one is doing exceptionally well right now. So I think that's just going to be interesting to see, mixing in something that we would consider a weed, but micro clover, the way that they're doing it is, from what I've been told, if you continue to mow it and do some things, it should be a much smaller leaf that's on there, and also it should blend in better and not look so patchy like clover, the typical clover does. So we're going to see how that goes. But then what I'm doing with the drought testing is I wanted to take all of those 6 plots pretty much and move them into a drought testing scenario. So next year, I'm going to get them established right now. I'm actually getting really good germination on those, about 10 days into it now. So gonna do that, and then I want to see next year, obviously, what goes dormant the fastest. What do things look like in our most stressful period here in about midsummer or so? You never know what you're gonna get in terms of the irrigation, just because sometimes it rains here, but in the last 3, 4 years, it has been really dry. And so I want to see that. And then I want to see as well what happens after we get to this fall scenario here. What do they look like for recovery? Does something need to be overseeded? Does it not? And then we're going to do this over a few seasons at least. So take out some of the variables of, it just being 1 year. Maybe you get more rain than others. And I'm really looking forward to that because the title of the video talks about the future of grass. And I think that we all know that no matter what, water conservation and everything in a lot of parts of the country is going to be very, very important going forward. Not that it hasn't been in the past, but I think we know there's a lot of restrictions coming in certain areas. And so if you want to have a yard and you want to have it look the best, then it's not only me doing this research. There's a lot of people, a lot of drought research already being done, but I want to take some of those cultivars and really understand what's going to be best and put that into my bags going forward. So that's what I'm up to.
Man, I'll tell you what, that really does excite me. And not that it matters what I think, but it excites me because I think those sustained over the course of time type studies are worth it, right? Even if they're just applied research and you're just looking at, the visual quality and or root density, root mass, root length, all those kind of things. That can be a little bit subjective and a little bit odd, at certain times, but I think it's going to give everybody a pretty good indication of what's going on. Now, I wonder, and this is a real question about the micro clover. I know this can be an issue with clover lawns in general, but do you have any worries about out there deer feeding on that stuff and just raking through it?
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
So definitely that was one of
Yep.
the main comments right away was like, if you don't get that thing covered with something or fenced off or whatever, that is not going to last very long. And so Kelsey and I put up a 6-foot fence around that last week, and we're
Mm.
getting started on, so far so good, but we're going to see long term what it needs. It's only
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I think it's 7 by 12, that plot, so it's not a huge area that I couldn't, fix it if need be, but so far, I just did my first mow on it today, and I just went for it, a real mow, just buzz it right off and see what happens.
Well, there you go. That's not bad.
Yep.
I think with the drought tolerance, I mean, I'll say it. You know what's going to happen, right? It's going to be the wettest summer in Iowa
Yeah.
history next
Yep.
year. So book it, ladies and gentlemen. RK will wear his rain jacket to work every day, hoping that it'll rain, trying to do the reverse psychology of the weather, and it will not happen. It simply won't.
Yeah.
So, hey,
One of
let's
the other
take a
things
few.
about
Oh, go ahead.
it
Oh, go
as
ahead. Go ahead.
well, just quickly, that I think that's
Mhm.
maybe better about that soil type out there is that it does dry out a lot faster, it being more sandy as you saw. So that's gonna
Oh
be
yeah,
probably a better test for me than it would have been at my home lawn because I have a lot more moisture that stays in the ground here than I do out there.
definitely. And for those of you that well, I'm probably one of the few that've been out to the property, but it is a much sandier, kind of a very dirty sand, I guess is the best way to put it. So, kind
Mhm.
of a sandy loam soil, I think is probably how it would be classified texturally on the soil texture triangle. Whereas, your home lawn is, very much a silty clay.
Yep.
And in that case, right, you're holding on to a lot of excess moisture that's hard to get rid of, and consequently, kind of going to mess up the whole drought strategy from a
Yeah.
testing standpoint. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that like I said, that'll be interesting. I love the long term aspect, and that's probably one of the coolest things about this property. Is just like to watch the evolution and see it all take place and unfold. So we
Mhm.
will see what happens. Let's go ahead real quick. Let me find this real quick because I've got stuff open all over the place as usual. And we'll take a
Yep, we've
question
got
here.
some questions rolling in here.
Pull this up. All right, here we go. All right, so Nemesis256 writes in, "Hi, Patrick from New Hampshire here. What's your guys' take on humic acid and or seaweed? Do the benefits change based on the soil type? I have a pH of 7.1, 80% sand. Thinking about using either Simple Lawn Solutions products or the granular." All right. So, RK, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I guess I will just say from my experience, I think it's been hard to tell exactly what it does or doesn't do. I know I do use the humic acid with the seaweed product specifically. I do like that one. Usually, typically, I'll put that down. Oh, probably like during the summertime or something, just to give things a little added boost. Or when I'm growing something in, I might add that one that has a little seaweed in there. But again, to quantify exactly what that does or doesn't do, I guess it would be hard for me to say, in my own experience, if I could look at that and say, yeah, it made a huge difference or it didn't.
Yeah, I think, from proving what the what those mechanisms are. A lot of it comes down to the way the plant uses those compounds as biostimulants, right? In particular, on the seaweed extract, because it contains plant growth hormones that the plant, especially cool season plants, right, will struggle to create in times of high stress. And so, by giving it, by providing these what we call exogenously, or like applying it to the surface, right, and allow it to go into the leaf, we can supplement that to a certain extent. What we're trying to do in essence, right, is to help that plant through a stress period by using these things. It's something that you're not going to necessarily see the benefits from of using these products in a single-use setting. I think it has to be a sustained effort if you want to see results, if any. And I also think it's important to leave a check plot no matter what you do. And what I mean by a check plot is a small area. If you want to make it out of view so that nobody else can see, that's fine. But make sure that you do this and don't treat that with the same products, so that you can see, okay, here's all my grass that's treated with these products, right? And then here's a 2 or 3 or 4 square foot area that's not, right? And you can still run your granular program, whatever you're going to do, right? The easiest way to do this is just take, you can take a shoebox, you can take a little piece of cardboard, piece of plywood, something like that, right? And just lay that down right over top of the grass in the area that you want to create your check plot. So I'd highly encourage you to do that. If you want to look up some more information on seaweed extract and humic acid, probably the seminal university research that occurred on this took place about 20 or so years ago, and it's been followed up on by a guy named Eric Irvin. That's Erikkervin. Dr. Irvin was at the Virginia Polytechnic Institute, otherwise known as Virginia Tech, there for a long time. He's since switched over. He's now at the University of Delaware and still conducting research there. So he's got some wonderful stuff out there. You can look at all the data and graphs and things like that and see plant roots that were treated with seaweed only, humic acid only, humic acid and seaweed together. And there's some really cool stuff in there that shows you a little bit of the visual impact, and it also talks about, if you read the papers, how much that there is still to learn about that. And there's not necessarily been a ton of work since Dr. Irvin did some of those first studies. So I'd encourage you to check those out. Eric Irvin, check out the seaweed extract, humic acid, and see what you can find out. But leave that check plot, please. Okay.
Yep. Next
Fire
question
away, RK.
we have is Great Green North Lawn Care. So what are your thoughts on nitrogen in the fall? How much and when should you put it down? So I'm assuming the Great Green North would probably be up in Canada or somewhere close to that. But,
I believe he is in Canada. He has messaged me on one of the social media platforms, possibly Discord, possibly Instagram. But yeah, and I think he's got a YouTube channel or something. Maybe I'm okay. I might be misremembering here, but in any event,
I know I've seen that handle before. Maybe it was on Instagram or somewhere. But so
that was many Keystones ago.
Yes, as we've talked about for cool season turf, your fall is the most important time to build your lawn for the next season. So that's when I'm going to typically be putting down the majority. If I'm doing more of a granular, quote, normal program, I'm doing more of a spoon feed program on my real mode turf. But if on a taller grass like I'm doing in my backyard, this would be when I would apply most of my nitrogen. So exactly how much and when you should put it down, I mean, this can be difficult to say exactly just because of different soil types and what your lawn is looking like. Have you been doing a fertilizer program for a while? Is it a new lawn? All these things are different scenarios, but I would say for me personally, I'm probably going for about 2 pounds of nitrogen in the fall, and that's spread out every couple weeks, maybe every 3 weeks, something like that, until we get to the frost time. So that's kind of what I do, but RD, you can chime in.
Oh man, how deep do we want to go here? Okay, I'll try to limit my response to 2 minutes or less. All right. So Great Green. Here's what I tell you. Yeah, exactly. Poor Alex, R.I.P. So I would say this is, as far as nitrogen goes on cool season grass, particularly where you're at, right? So if you are in, I'm assuming that you're somewhere in southern Canada, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that, but let's just assume that. So you're, kind of an upper Midwest type of climate, we'll just say. If that's the case and we're on cool season grass, I think there's a couple of caveats here that need to be remembered as you go through and plan out your nitrogen for the fall. Number one is that it really depends on how much you've already put out, but we really would like to put out about 50% or so of our total nitrogen for the year, maybe even a little bit more during that fall period. And for fall up there, I would say that you're probably in a August 15th until about maybe October 31st. That would be what I would consider turf grass fall for you. So plan your apps accordingly. The other thing, and if you watch the other podcast that I take part in, which is Burn and Return, there'll be an episode coming out here where we talked a little bit about this just this past week. And what we highlighted was that there's some really interesting research out of Michigan State that talks about what RK just mentioned, new lawns versus old lawns. And when I say old, I mean 10 or more years old, right? Where the amount of nitrogen it takes for that lawn to be good looking, high performing, and all that kind of stuff actually goes down as that lawn ages, especially past 10 years. And so the point being there is that we can actually reduce the amount of nitrogen that we put down, particularly in fall, where we could have issues with leaching and other issues where the fate, right, is what we call it, the fate of nitrogen in the environment could be ending up down a storm drain, ending up in leaching in the water, things like that, and we want to avoid that. Finally, the last thing I'll say here real quick is some other really, really good research out of the University of Wisconsin. About 10 or so years ago, RK and I have made several videos on it to talk about and highlight the research of Dr. Doug Soldat. So if you want to look this up, really good information out there from Dr. Soldat and his then grad student, now PhD, Bill Kreuzer. So that's Doug, S-O-L-D-A-T. Just look up late season fertilization. He'll talk a little bit about that. But the basic premise is this, is that as we go through the fall time, and in your area, I would say that by October 31st, if you were to make that application on Halloween, you would be getting in about 12% of the actual nitrogen that they're putting down into the plant. That's roughly what Soldat's research bears out. Whereas if you put that same application, same rate down, 2 months prior, say at the beginning of September or right about where we're at right now, you'd get better than 80% of that nitrogen in the plant. So as you see, as the plant starts to, or as the times get colder, the plant's taking up and needing less water because of shorter day lengths, more moisture in the ground, all those sorts of things. The demand for nitrogen is less, and therefore the more that you put out does not necessarily mean the more that you get in. So be cautious, be judicious with that. And with that, RK, I yield my time back.
That was amazing. You were just working through that, just all that research that you look at. I will come to RD and I'll say, hey, I need to know something about whatever topic, and he'll say, just a moment, I will get you the research paper, and there it is. It's like a library. So
that and music videos. I always surprise you with music videos too.
You got it. Yeah, you got it. After this is the next question here. After watching the Detroit Lions disappoint me yet again yesterday, I've been looking forward to this all damn day. A quality bush latte in hand and talking grass. Perfect end to a Monday. Well, we thank you for joining us. And I have my Keystone in this cup right here. So.
Hey, you know what? The best thing you can do as a Detroit Lions fan, and trust me, I did this for years as a Browns fan, so I have full empathy here, is just look forward to that top 10 pick that you're going to get here in about 8 months. It's a great feeling, isn't it? You got something to look forward to. Hey.
Again and again.
Season. That's what I always say. There's always next season, usually after the first week. But all right, go on. RK, what's our next question?
Well, let's. I think you should go with this one. We know our friend here, Jesse. So.
Oh my goodness. Let's see here. Jesse says, Jesse Bousquet says, I'm spraying ethofumicate to help with the POA problem. Should I do a split app of the etho and also apply a pre-emergent like prodiamine later in the fall, or skip that until spring? It's a great question. Now, I know this, and a lot of people probably don't, but I know that Jesse is on a full 100% perennial ryegrass lawn, RK, a man after your heart. So
I know.
I'll say that. I will say this.
Yeah.
Ethofumicate in a pure ryegrass stand is a fantastic tool that you can use to manage Poa Annua. So with that being said, Jesse, to answer your first question about using etho in a split app, absolutely I would do a split app. I would do at least 2 applications, possibly 3 if you can fit it in if you haven't done one already. And you're looking to go at that 2 pounds of active ingredient rate is your sweet spot. So I'd be applying one now, and I'd probably give it about at least 4 weeks. And then, timing wise, I wouldn't be afraid to put one out in November, especially if you're in a typical, and again, folks might not know this, but in a typical New England fall and late fall, that's where Jesse hails from, is the New England area. and I would not be afraid to make that third app if need be. The prodiamine, I think at this point is sort of a moot point, basically because we're trying to prevent Poa Annua germination, which ethylfumicate is actually a fairly decent pre-emergent, right? But at this point, whatever Poa Annua that you do have has already germinated. The prodiamine is not going to help at this point. I don't see that as a winning strategy, right? So the other thing to consider there too, if you're not Jesse and you're ever thinking about doing this, would just be, think about your seeding strategy relative to using ethylfumicate, and especially if you're going to use prodiamine on the front end of that. That could be a little problematic and tricky on the timing, so just be careful of that. But Jesse, good luck. Ethylfumicate, wonderful product to use on Poa, especially on 100% ryegrass stand. I think you'll see very, very good luck, and you might need to make a follow-up app next spring, but let's do those 2 apps and see where you get weather-wise and go from there.
Awesome. Gary B joined as a member, so thank you very much. We got a super chat there, $2, says, good evening. Ryobi tools are trash. So
okay,
I guess they wanted to let us know that. I don't have any, I don't think, but
that guy, I mean, clearly this guy works for Craftsman. What is I have to go look at that chart. Where they've got like the whole family tree of how, the cartels basically own, all the tool brands at this point. I have to memorize that because I don't have it all memorized. But hey man, it's just the way the world works. Buy a different color. That's what that's what we always just say in the golf world. People. Oh, there it is. Look at this. Yeah. People would always say, man, that John Deere mower sucks, or that Jacobson mower is a piece of trash, or this. It's like, hey, just buy a different color, man, and then you'll get sick of that, wear it out, and you go back. I think I told this story one time, RK, real quick, before we go to another question, but I remember, like, I was young. I was probably 16, 17 years old working on the golf course, right? And this guy's his actual name was Marty, and Marty was like a salesman. Like, he would probably sell something. He would sell life insurance to his mother on her deathbed. Like, that's how much of a salesman Marty was. So I remember he was a Toro salesman, and he would come in and bring equipment. We'd get to try it out, all that kind of stuff. And one day he rolled in, and we had a John Deere greens mower. It was like, probably the second generation that John Deere had put out. They were still fairly new in the golf market at that time. And he just starts going off, MFing this thing, and, oh, it's a piece of trash. It won't cut below 1/8 of an inch for nothing, blah, 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 just ripping it up and down, right? So I was a kid. I was in school. So that summer I worked there. I go back to school. I come back, once school's out the following summer, and Marty rolls in, but Marty's got a different truck this time. And I'm like, is that Marty guy? What's he doing? Well, he rolls in, and guess what shirt he's wearing? He's wearing a John Deere shirt, and he's coming in to tell us, hey, that mower you looked at, it's got a lot of benefits, a lot of positive features, guys. I don't know why you're not taking a look at it, but you really. And I was like, man, these are the people that will sell you, sell you for.
I don't
for
know.
nothing.
I don't know how someone can sleep at night like that. I just don't.
Well, it's somewhere in some odd space. Marty's probably got a YouTube channel, unscrupulously selling products and not giving a whole lot of value on the front end, but. I digress.
I mean, I'm not here to judge. He needs to do his job, but man, that's a little bit over the top.
Drinking the Kool-Aid. So okay.
Yep.
Let's see here. All right.
I think we're down to Pete Scroggs. He says, RK marketing op. With all the battery-powered mowers out there, we need a mid-priced battery reel mower. Not all have lawn or budget to justify a Swordman, but would pay $500 to $750. Thoughts? Well, I would love the same thing. Unfortunately, I'm not in charge of these types of things, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, I'm going to tell you something that you're going to be shocked by. I might consider actually using like this new battery-powered Milwaukee that I have that I've actually really enjoy. I might actually say I would go like 1-inch rotary with a lawn striper on the back, and you might not notice much of a difference.
I'll tell you what, like, we joke and talk and everything like that about rotary versus reel and everything like that. I would say that most of the cool season baseball stadiums that you see, for the most part, are rotary mode at 1 inch or so. Some with rotorollas to create the stripes, and some with just regular mowers. There's no stripes, and they're bagging everything and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you'd be surprised. They make, I'll have to find the manufacturer. Gosh, it escapes me right now. but there is a manufacturer that makes blades that are like super super thin. So on low cut, like you can really get it dialed in, and so that's the upside. The downside is that they go dull really quickly. You have to pull them off a lot and sharpen them. But I mean, I've seen some turf mowed at like 3/4 of an inch with the rotary. Yeah, I think I've showed you some of the baseball parks around here that I know that are professional, AAA parks that are mowing with the rotary mower just because it's easier. And that's
well, and I know if you and I think both follow Mr. David Miller on, he posts a lot on Instagram and stuff. It's really cool if you haven't checked that out. If you're interested in what goes on some of these high-end major league fields, and he, I know they have a Bobcat that they rotary that they use for a lot of things because I've seen that on there multiple times. But I don't know on this Milwaukee for sure if it's because of the electric motor, the way that I'm not exactly sure, but all I know is it is cutting better than I anticipated and extremely clean. So it's good.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's I think somebody will get that dialed in and figured out, right? Like, you're essentially just trying at this point, I think, for most of these manufacturers to mash up the tech, right? And figure out how to make it all work. I think somebody will come along in the rotary space and do a pretty good job. Look at this. It's discontinued, J Pink. What are we going to do? You're going to find these on eBay. So, probably our good friend Jacob from one of our Discord servers has probably gotten to every Lowe's up and down Interstate 95 and bought every one of these, and he's selling them on eBay right now for like $800. What is this one? Oh, that's a battery-powered reel. Push reel, cordless.
Yeah, I have seen that, but I've heard some not so great things about them, but I won't give judgment until I try one.
Yeah, that just seems. You know what I saw? I don't think it was corded either. I was actually driving down the street just yesterday, and it was orange. It might have been a Fiskars or something like that. I don't know the brand for sure, but it was orange, and it looked like a battery-powered reel. I don't think it was a push, and I don't think I saw a cord. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I was doing like 35, so. I don't know. Minimum height of cut, 0.6 inches on that bad boy.
0.6, yeah.
Well, hey, we'll have to go find one because it looks like they're back order. They're out of stock right now. So,
yeah,
for $270, we'll mess around and find out. So, okay. So let's see and jump back in here on the questions here. So we've got Gary B. He's a new member. Gary, welcome. I did a full renovation of my backyard, used turf, tall fescue. It's pretty light in some areas. My question is, what grass seed should I use to thicken it up? So, Gary, not knowing when you did it and how thin it is and all that kind of stuff, I'll just go ahead and say is use the same seed that you used already. There's a variety of things I would say with tall fescue is that it will pop up fairly quickly, get going. Pretty quickly. You should be doing your first mow on it, I'd say, within 3 weeks. RK, you did your neighbor's lawn. Was that last year or 2 years ago now? I can't remember. Your neighbor across the street.
That was...
It was 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Let's see. 2 years ago, yeah.
Time flies, RK. Time flies.
I almost showed it again the other day. I took some footage of it, and I cut it out of the video.
Now, they moved, right?
I don't want to show it. It's painful.
They moved, and now they've let it go to hell, right?
Yeah,
I'm telling you, people are going to drive down that street. It's what's the name of that Green Day song? The Boulevard of Broken Dreams. That's what's going to be. Your old street's going to be the Boulevard of Broken Lawns. And drive down that street. So some dad's going to tell his kids, Ryan Knorr used to live on this street, and everything went to hell in a handbasket after he left.
Yeah,
maybe, or maybe they'll be like, God, I'm glad that guy's gone.
Yeah, everyone's like, you should go back and look at it like a year from now. I was like, no, I won't be doing that. I will not be doing that.
Oh, man.
Well,
hey, hopefully nobody desecrates your lawn. Hopefully they'll embrace it for what it is. But, hey, we won't have full control over that anymore.
Nope.
Let's see here. Kevin Shepard, our guy Kevin. What sprayers have you considered for the new property? Do you plan on getting a PTO-driven unit? Have you looked at any of the FS manufacturing sprayers? They are an upper Midwest, North Dakota company. What do you think about the sprayers? I would love to get into this talk. We have not spoken about this yet, I don't think, at length. And boy howdy, this gets me
I'm
really
tightening up
excited.
my microphone here because we're getting into the deep stuff.
Let's go.
No, I have looked at some of the FS stuff. Actually, I just asked you about this, I think
You
the
did,
other
and
day,
I
because
and
you
I
said,
actually told
yeah,
you to ask Kevin because
yep,
it's funny. So I told you to ask, and then uh,
yep.
yeah, he started posting some pictures of this in one of our chat servers and things like that, and actually came together really cool the way that he did his. But I'm curious for you, which ones have you looked at? I think you were asking me about the ATV sprayer that they have.
Yeah, well, I was looking at, I think, the pull behind one that you can pull behind a ATV or something. But honestly, long term here, I really want to get a ride-on sprayer. I don't know when or how that's going to happen, but I think that that might be the ticket for me because I want an acre and a half of ryegrass, and we're going to be doing some spraying.
Yeah, that I mean, listen, all the environmentalists, please close your ears, earmuffs. Yeah, RK, with the summers that you've had recently, I mean, that stuff is literally going to be living in a jacuzzi of pesticides for about 3 or so months. So,
Yeah, you might be
hey, you know
surprised.
what? I think you will. I think the pushing the limit there of what needs to be done. And here's the thing: it's ryegrass. Worst case scenario, you get beat up a little bit, some gray leaf spots, something like that. Just overseed it, right? It's no big deal. It's back up in 7 days and rock and rolling again.
That's what
So,
I did
uh,
on the fringes of my plots. On the main six, there's a fringe area that's probably 5 feet wide that I planted with the same ryegrass that's in the ryegrass plot, but this one I didn't water. Now I got maybe some overspray here and there a little bit, but for the most part, midsummer it was straw brown. I was driving over it, beating it up, trying to see how bad I could treat it, like Connor. And
no doubt.
it honestly, right now, I would say the cover is back to. I could use my fancy app. I will have to do that, RD. But I'm gonna say it's about 90%. So
Okay. Are you using a Canapeo?
I
That's
need
the,
to, but I'm saying I haven't tested that yet. But
oh,
visually,
okay.
not much died off. I've actually was pretty surprised. So we're gonna see
And
what
I think
happens.
I think that's the thing is you have to accept some losses if you're not going to go all out on the spray. Yeah. So here's the 3-point ones. I have nothing against the 3-pointers. I will say that it is kind of a pain in the butt to spray at a tractor because especially if you don't have an electric actuated boom, and you've got to reach back and shut those valves off. It's a long reach. It's hard to do. It's kind of weird steering around stuff, especially if you got a bucket on there like this tractor does. So
I
I
think I could
love
put it on the Ventrac if I got the 3-point on the back of the Ventrac and it has a little
you.
switch on the controller there. But
Yeah, you could. I don't
but
know,
it's
man. Like,
only I don't
there's
know. I don't know.
what is it? Okay, so let me ask you this question real quick. And sorry if you're just listening on the conversation. This is just where it goes. We got to satisfy our indulgences here. So, is it I'm going to list some features out to you or some characteristics of sprayers, and I want you to rank them in importance. All right. So
Uh-huh.
capacity or production. Okay, that's number one.
Yep.
Ability to spray high volume. Right. So we're going to say greater than 1.5 gallons per thousand square feet. Um, Precision, right? So that you have control over instead of it just being like one nozzle like a permagreen would be, that you have individual nozzle control or a couple on each one, kind of like a steel green or a Z spray or something like that. And then finally, added features like electronic rate control, where you literally plug it in and say I need to spray it 2 gallons per thousand, and it's going to measure your speed and then it's going to adjust automatically based on your speed to produce that level of carrier volume. So
I want all those
capacity.
things. All.
Okay, well, I'll take it one step further.
Oh.
How about when I say precision, do you want to have GPS with RTK, real time kinematics, that you can have sub inch or sub centimeter accuracy and map
Uh,
out all your spray areas?
no,
That's
that would
probably a
be
little too
nice,
much.
but that
That's probably a little too much.
I got a lot
Just
of
saying.
stuff to pay for right now, so I don't think that's
Yeah.
quite in the budget.
I think one thing that is undersold that's sort of an accessory to all this would be a very nice premix setup, kind of like your friend Rick has over there at the country club. That he has got a
Hmm.
sweet setup, and you could probably do something like that on a small scale. So, what's the most important? Just tell me what the most important thing is out of all those things I just listed.
Uh, I
Come
don't
on, I'm
know.
putting you on the
Like
spot here.
I
Inquiring
would say
minds want to know.
precision, probably precision,
Precision.
because you know me.
Well,
I'm like over the top on everything. So
then you're gonna have one of the first, RTK Express stand-on sprayers. Then, there's only a certain level that you can do, but I think, yeah, that helps in terms of trying to narrow it down. So I think one of those more traditional stand-on types, maybe moving away from the permagreens and the turf wares, which I think are fine products. I have nothing wrong with them. It's just based on what you're describing, you're kind of veering more towards a steel green or a Z spray, and I
yeah,
don't
that's
know.
kind of what I was looking at. Yeah,
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes, but
because I want
that's
to.
interesting.
Well, yeah, there's going to be a lot of spraying going on, and I would like to be doing more of my typical spoon feed program with like equalizer on. I would
Mm-hmm.
this year I haven't really been able to keep up with that, but I would like to do that on my main plots and the larger areas. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take some capacity there to do that as well. But
All the more reason I think you need a nice little pre-mix station, because that's the one drawback on those units, even with the bigger pumps that can handle high carrier volumes, their agitation is really not great. So having a
mhm.
good pre-mix station will work on that, RK. It's just another thing to add to the budget. And John Falcon, if you're listening, yes, I'm doing everything in my power to facilitate the spending of money on good things and things that will only help the channel. So, all right,
Well,
let's see here. Who is
we got a lot
next?
of questions here, so we're
We
gonna
got we
have
got to keep we got
to.
to we're good. We got
Yep.
plenty of time here. So, uh, Ryan, you got your room at your property to do some humic acid testing. Two identical plots, one with humic and the other with no humic. Well, just like we talked about, RK, you would do. I mean, you can do check plots with just about everything now, and I think we talked about that on a previous
Hmm.
episode, right?
Yep.
Plenty of
Yeah,
room. Plenty of room.
I can do some check plots for sure.
It's going to be interesting.
Kevin said, well, first we got Great Green Lawn Care said, yep, up here in Canada, eh? So yes, he
Yeah,
is. And
he
Kevin
certainly
said, I like
is.
my ATV sprayer, getting mine all set up and calibrated. Awesome. Kevin, we'll like to hear about your experience here with that as we go. Jason said, any thoughts on Barenbrug Seed, HGT, RPR, RTF? You know, I'm not absolutely partial to that stuff, but I think there are some better options out there. Just my honest opinion, if you wanted it. So,
Very diplomatic, RK.
hmm.
You know, I think I have no bar. I know people that work at Barenbrug that are great people and all that kind of stuff. I think HDT, the Barvet cultivar that's in there, that's sort of the star of the show, is a wonderful cultivar. What ends up happening though, from time to time, is that the other two and or three that end up in that blend are not always the greatest of Kentucky bluegrasses, right? If I was be able to choose, one that has three or four elite cultivars, RPR. Fine product, use it a ton on overseeding and filling in divots on tees and high use areas. Fine product. I think there's better ryegrasses out there, to be honest with you, and the same thing with RTF. So if you like them, use them. I think that's the main thing that RK and I always say is, we're never going to tell
Yep.
somebody to not use it because they don't want to. We just give our opinion and off we go. All right, Jonathan D. McCready says he's a new member, by the way. Thank you, Jonathan. Nice to meet you. Let's see here. I think he means Grand Rapids, Michigan, man. Here, go blue. Oh man. All right. New home and my soil is extremely sandy. Hey, he can say that this year if he wants. They beat us last year, so it's whatever. I get it. We deserve it. New home and my soil is extremely sandy. Did a soil test this spring. pH at 7. CEC was very low at 5.6. Potassium, sulfur, and boron all came back low. I don't plan on doing a full reservation, but I'm worried about the heavy amount of sand in my soil is going to impact growth. I also have a lot of spotted spurge spreading. Interesting. So, RK, when you think about sandy soil, and not just like sand cap, but native sandy soil, what's your first inclination here? As far as maybe additions of organic matter, excuse me, to help with that a little bit, and then or the use of wetting agents. Talk about what you've seen in some of your comings and goings there out there, especially on the
Yeah.
new property because it's sandier.
Well, I haven't done a whole lot yet. I've been trying to decide myself if I'm going to try to do anything to amend what's there, or in all honesty, sometimes in my opinion, it's not the worst thing to have that more sandy soil because you have some more control. Like we talked about with the soil that I have here, if it were a normal year and it were raining constantly during the middle of the summer, I had a hard time getting that to dry out. I had a lot of fungus that would come, especially if I wasn't watching my watering early on in the beginning. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. You just have to change your program a bit. I've gone after watering slightly more, but not longer durations, but just more often, and that has seemed to work well for me out there. And then also, if you can go more towards lower amounts of fertilizer and not just throwing it on or and hoping that the soil is going to take it in, but doing something that's more often and lower amounts, that's going to work better, at least from what I'm seeing on my change in the soil out there too. So not necessarily a terrible thing, but RD, do you have some thoughts maybe on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a soil fertility standpoint, with sandier soil, you just need to be a little bit more careful as far as applying nutrients goes, because with your low CEC, you're going to hold less nutrients in the soil, and then nitrogen wise with sandier soil, you're more likely to leach through, right? There's not anything there necessarily from an organic matter perspective, or as much as there could be to hold that in place. And so, what I would tell you is just be careful with your nitrogen apps as a whole. Also, P and K. Michigan soils, for example, are usually pretty high in P, but those are like more muck soils, not necessarily the sandy soils, which it sounds like you're in Western Michigan and got a little bit more sandy soil. So, a little bit lighter in the rates, right? So I would never be above, like, say, half a pound of nitrogen at any one time. And I'd probably tend to be closer to a quarter pound or so, quarter to a third of a pound at a time, and maybe tighten up your frequency where everybody else is going out maybe every 6 to 8 weeks. You might be every 3 to 6 weeks, something like that. So just be mindful of that, especially as you go into times where there's heavier precipitation. So I know summers are typically a little bit drier up there, but spring and fall can be a little bit wetter. So just be aware
Mhm.
of that. And then I want to check something here because I don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. So the other thing too that you need to be aware of on the spurge, I'll put this chart and we'll see if we can link it up. I might be able to do this or find a website that will throw it up in the show notes. But Purdue, actually, I'll just go ahead and put this up here. I think we've advertised this before, and we make absolutely nothing off of this. And forgive me for taking a minute to answer this question, RK. But Purdue puts out a great thing about weed control,
Mhm.
and it's a little book that you can get for, oh gosh, it's like $12, I think, to download
20,
it.
yeah. Yeah, I
20
think
bucks for the
so. I've showed it a
book.
couple times this season.
Yeah, it's a great little book, and I highly encourage you to get it or get the PDF. Here, I'll throw this up, J Pink, and you can put this in there for people to find. If you just search for professional weed control for turfgrass Purdue, you'll see this come up, and a great little guy. But one of the things in there that they talk about is indicator weeds. So certain weeds indicate certain types of conditions, and spurge, one of the indications that it shows is dry and low fertility soil, which I'm going to say that a sandy soil that's not been taken care of very well could be both, right? So
Mhm.
I think if you up your nitrogen, you get some good desirable turfgrass in there, you manage your water correctly in times of drought and things like that, you're going to have an A plus lawn, and one that's pretty easy to manage as long as you can get on it often enough.
Cool. Let's see where we're at. Let's see, I think someone asked about a follow-up question to that POA thing that Jesse was talking about. It just says add tenacity with that or no. So with the
Uh,
FO.
with the FFU state, I mean, I would ask
Mhm.
the question of why. So we know that uh, mesotrione or tenacity will light up POA in terms of, it'll bleach it, but it certainly won't control it. There's some applied research that suggests that you can control to a certain extent, a certain amount of POA in a stand, right? I think Dave Miltner from formerly, I think he's formerly of Iowa State and Arizona State, had an article, oh gosh, going back maybe 10, 12 years that put that out. So you can look that up if you're really interested in doing it. But yeah, it's more of a suppression tool, so I wouldn't necessarily bank on that having any added or additional effects. I also don't think it would stress. I don't think it would stress bluegrass, but I would caution somebody like Jesse who's got ryegrass, right? So rates, approaching or above 4 fluid ounces per acre, and I don't know what the conversion is off the top of my head to tell you what that is in per 1,000 square feet, but 4 fluid ounces the acre, you will see bleaching on ryegrass for sure. So if you're going to do that and you have all ryegrass, tread lightly.
Yep. Mike Warmbold is a new member, so thank you very much, Mike, for joining us here. Ray is here. He says problem with battery-powered reels is they need torque. So it goes back to our discussion there about some of the battery-powered stuff. Growing the Grass says, late to the party, did we discuss the new granular fert and when it will be released? No, we haven't talked about that yet. That should be this week, hopefully. We're getting all of our,
damn.
all of our stuff in a row here, and hopefully this week.
Nice.
Got a couple of the old super chats from Cam T and Patrick Squires. Thank you very much for those. And let's see where we're at here. Brent says nothing like making a lawn mint and watching it go to hell in front of your eyes with your hands tied. Yep, that's been my year looking at my neighbor's yard and no one living there and it getting mowed maybe once every 6 weeks. So that was
that is painful.
Yep.
Mm.
Ray says I should get PTO because the ability to put down 2 to 5 gallons per 1,000 square feet.
I don't know if you need PTO. I mean, at that point, we're just getting a big old golf course sprayer at that point. And you can go out and you can hammer down. You can definitely hammer down on some stuff.
Cam T says, when is RK going to sell seed in lower quantities? Next season. We're working on that right now, but it will be next year. There'll be some lower quantity options. Just have to get some some new bags and all that made and all that fun stuff. So that'll be what we do with that.
Nice.
This one is from Jared Watson. Thank you for the super chat there. It said, hi, Ryan. How much do you determine how much seed to use for a restoration project reseed? Turf type tall fescue, been down 2 weeks. One section is super thin, 5,000 square feet. Well, usually for me, I think I just showed this in a video not too long ago that especially with something like fescue or ryegrass, after a couple weeks when I see these areas that are fairly thin, I just don't wait. At that point, I just get some more seed and lightly throw some down in those areas, and it's usually not too hard to get it growing just because you already have something there. It's much more difficult to get it off the ground, so to speak, at the beginning when everything is bare, but that's what I do. I just don't I think maybe, this is just me spitballing here, but I think maybe that might be my key to success in a lot of ways with my renovations is that I just don't wait around and say, "Oh, is this gonna thicken up or isn't it? Or this spot looks like a little bit thin." I just put more seed down.
That's the way to do it. Hey, seriously though, I will say, if you have turf type tall fescue or perennial ryegrass, like I'm not even batting an eyelash, right, at doing something like that. If you're doing Kentucky bluegrass, you got to give it time. You got to give it time, and it can be as hard as it is to watch that lawn fail. It can be equally as hard, if not more so, to do nothing and watch it grow in because there's really not a whole lot you can do other than let nature take its course. So be that as it may, you got to keep.
I'm sitting there on my bluegrass plot right now that I just planted about. It's at, let's see, today would be 21 days. So I've mowed like the ryegrass and the fescue like 3 times, and it is like not close to mowing. So
Really,
that tells you about
it
about where
sounds
it's
like
at.
a dry fall so far in central Iowa.
Hmm.
Mm.
Very much
Man,
so.
we've had stuff. We had I'll have to send you a picture of it, but turf type tall fescue. I think it was an 80-10-10 that was seeded just in like some cleanup areas around a construction site that we did a small field at, and oh boy, like we had just perfect. Everything was perfectly timed with rainfall. Very very timely rains. That stuff was like up in probably like 6 days, and it's probably been down now for about 5 weeks maybe. And I went over and checked it out today, and I mean, it looks like it's been there forever. I mean, it looks that good right now. Very few weeds.
Hmm.
You can do a little spraying here and clean it up, but it's so weather dependent. Even when you don't have irrigation, and I think too often people kick themselves. Oh, I did this, I failed. Blah blah. You need water. Like you have to have
Yeah.
water, and if you don't have control over it, there's only a certain amount of success that you should expect. And if you overachieve, then great, like awesome.
Hmm.
But so often I have
Yep.
folks that say, "Hey, we're gonna plant, 30 acres of tall fescue around this school building and leave it unirrigated. How long do you think it's going to take to establish?" And my honest answer is about 18 months. Before you're fully happy with it. It's going to go
Yeah.
slowly and in spurts, right? In terms of areas that become mature and fill in faster and things like that. But it's going to take overseeding. It's going to take a lot of different things to get to that point. And weather is the ultimate arbiter of how all that stuff goes. So
Yep.
we will see.
That's what you and I have talked about many times on our TurfCast before is expectations. So
Ooh,
if you
so
if you
important to
want
manage.
you want that thing to be perfect, then you're gonna have to have water. And if you want it to be a while before it's perfect, then you can do it multiple ways. That's
And multiple
that's how it
times, right?
goes. Yep.
All right. Michael Chaley, a proud Canadian, another proud Canadian here listening to us, sir. Welcome. Wants to know, when will you sell in Canada? I'm not sure if he's talking about seed, product, or all the above.
Well, if we're talking about fertilizers and things, there's quite a few different restrictions in Canada. It's not quite as easy to get that all approved and everything. So we've been worrying about what we have to do here before we worry about that. But seed, you need some licensing to get into there. You have to have a seed license, and they're pretty strict in terms of what comes into their country and all that stuff. So I'm not sure on that. I guess I can't give you an answer as to. I would definitely love to be selling the grass seed there. So I would say that would probably be something I would work on before some of the fertilizer stuff because there's a lot of restrictions.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough. Um, yeah, I wish there was a better answer for that, but you just gotta follow the law, and it's never easy. It's certainly never easy. But Chaley, come over to Windsor and meet us at the bridge. We'll see what we can work out. I'm kidding. That's a total joke. If you're listening, FBI. All right. So anyway, let's see here. We've got a question from a new member.
John
Oh,
Cruz.
yeah. John Cruz would like to know. Could you explain when you scarify Kentucky bluegrass and what the benefits are from it? RK, you want to take that one? You've got the
No, I
scarifying
want you
tool.
to go. I want you to go first on this.
Okay, sure. So I believe there's absolutely benefit to it in terms of understanding that number one, especially if we're talking about elite cultivars of Kentucky bluegrass, they can get too dense for their own good, right? We have plants on top of plants, and part of that exists because they're rhizomatous grasses, right? So they're pushing out tillers in the form of rhizomes and have daughter plants popping up. And when that stand gets too dense, we see a change in leaf structure. We see a change in growth habit from time to time. And between the issues of competition for sunlight, other things like that, we want to make sure that the stand is able to be open, and we want to work on what we call the texture of the grass, right? So good opportunity, especially when you have good growth potential in terms of cooler nights, days that aren't too warm. You can manage water if you have irrigation, or you have rain coming up, so you can get through a stress period. I would not want to go out. We've got a forecast coming up here. It's a little cool and chilly here today. Here's our weather talk, by the way. But the
Yes.
next 10 days in a row were mid 80s and mid 60s pretty much every single day, and dry, real low
I'm gonna
low
top you
relative
on that
humidity.
one.
What are you gonna do?
We are looking at the end of the week. It's showing 90 for I think it was 3 or 4 days in a row, but the lows are at 72, which is bad news for all of our seeding folks who aren't watching their water very well.
Well, there you go. Yeah, you got to be careful out there, and life is tough in Des Moines, Florida. I don't know how you do it, but
Pretty much.
it's just it's a weird place to live because all I ever know about it, is from you, and it's stifling hot in the summertime. It's bitterly cold in the wintertime. It seems like fall and spring have pretty much disappeared for y'all, and it's depressing. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. I enjoyed the 57-degree morning and having to wear pants for the first time in months today.
Yep.
I'm a shorts at work guy, typically, and so
That's the thing.
it felt
We
good
we
out there.
know what's going to happen is the same thing like you just said. We're just skipping seasons. So as soon as we get to like October 10th or so, it will just drop off and it'll be a high of like 42 and for no reason. We go from upper 80s to that. I don't get it anymore, but I just deal with it. There's nothing else you can do.
No, man. Okay. Let's see here. I got some more that are chiming in here. Let's see here. Kevin Shepard
I think
again
Kevin,
says,
Kevin had a question.
he says, RD, late season sand in Kentucky Bluegrass. How much sand and how late is too late? Should I skip it this year as I've already stressed the stand with 2 MSM apps? Okay. So for those of you that don't know, Kevin is in the upstate New York area, so winter comes a little bit sooner. It seems like all the folks that we talk to on here, there's nobody like in that transitionish zone. I feel like I'm one of the most southern folks here, at least in the chat and talking right now. But
Well, I'm pretty
anyway,
much transition as it goes.
well, it feels like it. It feels like it. That Bermuda's going to look lovely out there next year, by the way. It's going to look so amazing. But anyway, I digress there. So, Kevin, to your point, if I were you, and I know this might sound kind of crazy, but I think you're at the point now where you need to just get into a maintenance top dressing mode, which is, if you can, lighter and more frequent applications. So, I would not go more than about 100 pounds per 1,000 square feet at one time. And, that is landed on pretty darn thick, especially for a maintenance type top dressing. So if you can, the most ideal thing to do would be, look at the golf course sand suppliers in the area, which I know there's at least one, if not two, in that upstate New York area, and call them and ask if they have bagged, kiln-dried sand. This will flow through a spreader with no problem whatsoever. And if anybody says to you use play sand or tries to talk you into using that because it's dry, it'll go through a spreader, please send them my way. I will fight them for you, okay? Please don't use play sand.
That's a triggering moment for RD.
It is. It's nails on the chalkboard. It's somebody farting on your pillow at the sleepover, giving you pink eye. It's just not any fun. It's no good. All right. Let's see here. All right. Jonathan McCready again.
Yep.
He says, "Yes, sir. Grand Rapids. I've got a big project in Grand Rapids coming up here, Jonathan. I will be up there here in October, but it's a 2023 project. So, have you done any lawn renos in West Michigan or Michigan in general? Laying a Ryan Knorr KBG rye mix tomorrow. Soil is sandy but very dry, hard at the top. Should I top dress soil before overseed? No, absolutely not. Do not top dress any soil out there. If you have any way of breaking up the soil, so I don't care if you get a rental lawn aerator, if you, I would be okay, RK, in this case with lightly, and when I say lightly, I mean like to a depth of no more than about 2 inches, doing a little bit of tilling in this case, if at all possible. Kind of break that layer up a little bit if we can, but I would under no circumstances use topsoil over top of sand. We never want to put a finer textured soil like topsoil over top of a more coarse textured soil. What that leads to is water hangs up there at the top. You get this bathtub effect. Water seldom goes down, and you have issues. If you want to, let me see if I can find this real quick. And if you're looking for a little bedtime story tonight, water movement
Bedtime story.
in soils. I will have J Pink throw this in to the chat. This video was made by two soil scientists at Washington State University and out there in Pullman, if you're familiar with the area. And this was made in 1959. It's been colorized and reads like a dry audiobook, but I'm telling you what, the good thing about soil science, RK, is that absolutely nothing has changed in the way with water moves, how water moves through soil since 1959 at the earliest. So highly encourage you to watch this if you're at all some type of a soil nerd, or if you are interested in how and why we use certain soils in certain situations, and some of the myths that are perpetuated by even some folks here in the lawn care space on the tubes. So with that, Jay, yeah, I would definitely take a peek.
There's a little follow up here too. He said, I did dethatch and aerate over the weekend.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, just go ahead and make sure you get that seed in there really good, especially with Kentucky Bluegrass. We want to make sure that we have a good, 1/8 or so inch of cover. As far as top dressing with something, I'm not generally a fan of peat moss. I think it's really hard to put down at the rate that you want to do it, but if you absolutely had to do it, go for it. I can't remember if he said how big his lawn was.
If you could do it fairly, like if you did it by hand, you could do it fairly light.
Yeah.
But
there you go. So if you try something like that, give it a rip. Try it out there. Let's see here. Cruz says summer during fall here in Iowa. Yeah, that seems to be the ticket here the last several years. I'm not sure that I've ever talked to RK in the fall and him being like, yeah, it's like football weather outside. It's perfect right now. It's usually deathly cold, and somebody might die of hypothermia if they're out for too long, or incredibly hot.
Roasting.
And
as you can see from me today, I'm like a little bit red again. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, RK, you can do it. We trust you. All right, let's see here. Mike Warmbolt, been a member for 2 months here. He's chiming in. He was up in Canada over the summer helping my dad with his lawn. The only post-emergent we could get without a commercial license was just highly concentrated iron. Yeah, so Mike's a great point that in Canada things are a lot different. So for the folks here, that are probably wondering, what's the deal with Canada? Why is it so difficult? A lot of the things that we take for granted here, especially on the herbicide, fungicide, insecticide front, are not available to your compatriots up in Canada. And so there's only so much you can do. There's been some work, RK, on those natural herbicides that's been done here at Ohio State. I had a chance to look at that this summer, and better than you'd expect. I'll tell you one of the interesting things that came of that, RK, and I'll send you some pics in the data here because they're doing some final treatments here this fall, but they were using the full rate on some of these natural products and then like a 1/8 or 1/4 rate on like a traditional 3-way and spraying that and actually having really, really good control on a lot of broadleaf species. So interesting stuff there. Maybe something to mess around with out there at Westbury,
Well, I just had somebody ask me too from Canada recently. They were like, are you going to do any plots that haven't been sprayed or haven't used pre-emergent? And I was like, well, actually the 6 that I seeded have not been sprayed and did not use pre-emergent. So I think that, can it be done? Absolutely. That was, I had to use glyphosate at the beginning just to kill off that field. That was one application. And then I just prepared the soil, and the best you can do is just get that seed to grow in. Whatever you have to do, watch it closely with water, make sure that it grows in the best that it possibly can. And I think you can have really good results without having to do a lot of spraying after that. But that most important phase is right there at the beginning where, that renovation is happening and it needs to come in and you need to be on top of it. So
yeah, absolutely. I think that's the most important thing there is just understanding what you're getting yourself into and making sure that you're prepared to make good decisions. I think that's the one thing that people leave out of all this RK is, they're so prepared of what's first, what's second, what's third. They forget about what's 8th, 9th, and 10th. Right? You get decision fatigue and you're not ready to go. Or you just turn it to us and you become a junkie for changing stuff and hitting bombs out of curveballs. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I've never changed anything.
Oh man, no, never. I mean, last minute. Yeah, there's a few vendors that I work with that when they see my number call, they're probably like, oh, "Jeez, this guy, gosh," and then they answer, "Hello, this is." That's okay. I'm glad to be that guy. All right, Gary B, new member. Thanks, Gary, again. I did a renovation in late July, and I used the Elite Tall Fescue from Ryan's store. I did my first and second mow. So hey, listen, things are working out. That's good that you're mowing it. That means something's coming up. So anxious to see.
Thank you for the support as well.
All right. So Jonathan says he's got about 8,500 square feet. Just kind of curious there of how much work we're talking about to get seed covered up if at all possible and things like that.
That's not so much fun by hand.
No, you know what I was thinking though. Do you know what I was thinking for a second before he said 8,500 square feet? I still think it's a doable thing. I was thinking about cover grow.
Okay.
Throw a little cover grow out there.
Yeah.
I'm actually, we'll talk about this in a moment. I want to make sure we get to everybody's questions, but I have a little, not a little, I have a big experiment that I'm going to do, and I'll tell you all about it here before we get out of here.
Can't wait for this.
Oh boy, I know. It's crazy. I had this vendor was shaking his head at me today thinking, oh my gosh, this guy, he's too much.
You get the same look that I do.
Yep, just your typical seating. No, Professor. No, we're not going to do just your typical seating. Not today. All right, so let's see here. Oh, Brent says this video was burned into the back of my brain, Clockwork Orange style, back in Turf College. LOL. Also, Jesse Bousquet, lots of positive things to say about the video. The soil video that we linked up there, this video is fantastic. It is. Some of the old ones are just great. All right, let's see here. When will Lawn Supply products come with a 40 of Keystone? Well, I'll tell you what, RK, let's make it our mission, all right, our combined mission. You're already working on smaller packaging sizes for your own seed, which I think is a wonderful thing. I think there's people that don't want to commit to a big bag, and that's great. But I also think that there's people that may, and we might be a couple of them, that may want to entertain the fact that a 30 rack of Keystone is just not nearly enough, and therefore we don't want a 40-ounce beer. We'd like a 40 rack of beer. And so we should endeavor to talk to our friend Bob. And Bob, if you're still listening, I hope you are. Haven't heard from you in a while. We're feeling kind of lonely, man. So check us out.
I mean, they could be the first. Why not? They could just be the groundbreakers for a 40. I don't see 40, why we wouldn't do this. Yeah.
Yes, a metric crap ton of beer, compliments of Keystone, right? The regular ton was not enough. The 30 rack, I think you can get Bud Light at Costco, I think, in like a 36 pack. So it seems that the next rung up on the ladder would be a 40 pack, and certainly a good package size. I'm all about this. We'll write Bob and Cruz. We'll definitely check this out because if we're gonna do smaller seed bags, we got to do bigger Keystones. It's just the way the world works. We got to balance these things out. It's like an algebra equation, right? Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. So
that guy Root is here, and he says, "Good evening, folks, and hey, RK and RD, hello to you, sir. I talk with him a lot. He's in Michigan as well.
Okay.
So he has sent me some very nice homemade maple syrups before. And,
oh wow!
Yeah.
What's? I wonder if RD would be a good candidate for one of those shirts. What's that?
He makes some custom-made shirts as well. You might have to get you one of those.
Interesting. I'm always about custom-made shirts. That's pretty cool. All right, let's see here. Jonathan McCready, make sure you go to the New Holland Knickerbocker or Founders while in Great Lakes. Great beer, pizza, pinwheels. I live about 45 minutes from Grand Rapids. Founders has good food, entertainment. Are you able to tell us what project you're going to work on in Grand Rapids? I can't tell you yet. I can tell you here probably after I'd say like next spring. I think it'll be okay to talk about it, but uh, it will be a very massive project. It'll probably be one of the biggest sports turf projects that's taken place in West Michigan in quite some time. So it'll be fun to be a part of. It's a lovely area. The people that I've interacted with up there have been great. It's a great place to visit. I had visited there actually with my family. Went on and took a vacation in the Grand Haven area actually a couple years ago, and so known some people up in Muskegon. Been so for Jonathan McCready, anybody else in the greater central and western Michigan area, I have tubed absolutely hammered out of my mind down the Muskegon River and had a grand old time. RK, if you haven't been, we should go. Should all the breweries up and then go hit the river on a tube. It's a great time. So, all right,
Yeah.
let's see.
John Cruz says, "Is there buried fiber at the new house to keep the live streams going when you move? Can't have J Pink's turtle speed at the new house." I do have fiber. I have signed up for it, and we're just waiting for that to be installed. So that's going to be exciting. Yep.
Let's see here.
Better internet out in the middle of nowhere than I have right now.
That's the way it goes. And let's be honest too, better dive bars too out in the new place. Just the way it is.
Absolutely.
Great Green North Lawn Care. Big idea. Keep the same bag size or bag grass seed, and then fill the rest with Keystone. That is a good idea. You know, like RK.
Idea.
You know what you should do. It's like when you used to get the toys in the cereal box. You know, like your decoder ring. Like those Keystones are just the decoder ring for getting drunk. It's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Can we make a Keystone
for
ring,
adults?
Bob?
I mean,
Bob, we've got lots of stuff to talk about. You got to get on the horn. We got to set up a Zoom call here real soon. All right. Exactly. Let's see here. McCready again. Personally, I'm a Keystone Iceman myself. Lived off that stuff in college. I don't even know. I think, RK, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe everything else has been discontinued except for the light. And they've got like the lemonade stuff or whatever, like their version of Natter Days or whatever. I'm not sure what it's called. I probably should know, but
it was lime something. It was Keystone. Yeah, I had it last year, but I haven't seen it this year, I don't think. So they might have given up on that too. Such sad times.
Let's see here. Cam T. If rye didn't exist, what would be your favorite? I'm assuming grass. Surely he's not talking about rye, the liquor. I don't drink that stuff.
I'm gonna say a shocking thing here, and I'm gonna say fine fescue.
That's listen. I has anything grown on you more? I feel like ryegrass was like your firstborn, and then you did the fine fescue area down there by the creek, and it's like you almost love your second child a little bit more than you want to admit. I think there's a little sibling rivalry going on the property, a little bit.
Definitely still love the firstborn the most, and that's true.
But that shade area would not be possible with pure rye. It is a magical place. I know that all of you have seen it all in video. It is much more quaint and much more bucolic and picturesque when you go there in person. So I would imagine it as good as you can think of it, and just know that it's that much better in person. So, all right, let's see here. Oh man, that root guy, fantastic, is saying, don't let this guy near your growing project on bad luck. RK, it's slowly starting to come in. Well, you know what? I think RK, it bears repeating. You know, one of the sayings I was told in college, those old axioms that, when you're 20 years old and sitting in a classroom, you're like, oh, this person's full of crap. What the hell do they know? But the saying was that the only thing that happens quickly in agriculture is crop failure, which is a very succinct and nice way of saying, be patient, you dummy. And I don't mean to call our viewers a dummy, but I'm saying that it can be hard. It can be very, very hard to watch this stuff, get going and take off. But it's definitely something.
He has one of those scenarios where it's a full sun lawn in a certain part and then a very shady lawn in other parts, and just that fun bridge in between all that stuff.
That's trees and turf in that setting don't necessarily mix. I think that's tough, and there is no winning on that. I think I saw something about somebody threw a question up on one of the Facebook things, and they had trees, big oak trees all over the place, and like, how come my grass won't grow? How come there's moss all over the place? And it was just like, the same thing. There was 30 feet of open sunny grass, and then like just dense shade from like a big white oak, and it's like, oh,
Hmm.
you got to pick one here, turf or trees. So
Yeah.
tough crowd, tough crowd.
Do you have
But
a couple of questions that you wanted to bring to the old cast here
ooh,
tonight? Because I think
I
we're about at that
we're getting
moment.
close on. We are. So okay. Let's see. This one was sent to me by a member here. It says, "Huge fan of the TurfCast podcast. I'm in California and have had about 2.5 weeks of 105-degree heat on my blend of cool season turf. It's irrigated, so it's still green, but very stretch, pretty patchy. I'm planning to do a heavy aeration, scarify, top dress, and overseed going into fall, but not sure if I should give the existing turf any time to recover coming out of the heat before hitting it with all of that, or do I just go for it right away as soon as the temps drop? Would love to hear your thoughts on anything you have." And this is from Rosetta07. So, sir, thank you for your question. RK, you've kind of dealt with some of this, especially on cool season mixes where you've had some ridiculously hot temperatures, even late into the year. I'm going to lean a little bit more on you because it's seldom, even here, not as the crow flies 600 miles to the east or so, we don't have triple digit temperatures that often here. Maybe a couple days a year, if that we come close to it. So I'm going to lean on you here. What have you seen in extreme heat, and how careful have you had to be coming out of that?
Um, I mean, we haven't been quite that hot for sure. I think this year is about 30 days of 90 or so or above. So definitely, very warm. And I've been very surprised with some of the results that I've had during those types of things. Soil temps over one time this year, on my ryegrass, I had it at 93. So that's usually the part where you would be like, I don't know how this is alive. And I kind of am still at that point. But I don't know. I think really it all comes down to your management and watching that water closely and making sure all the rest of your cultural practices are dialed in. I know that's not really that great of an answer, but that's really what it has been for me to keep everything going. I just have to be really on top of things with all that stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, to answer Rosetta's question is just, um, I would hold up. I'd be very careful. I know parts of California, particularly Northern California, have had some record heat. I think last week in the Sacramento area, RK, they were 110 plus for multiple days straight. So any cool season grass is going to be extremely stressed coming out of that, right? So
Hmm.
the two words of caution I would give is maybe scale down a little bit on the cultural practices that you're going to do. Number one, maybe pick or choose between the scarifying and or the aeration, right? So pick one of those two. And then finally is you got to give it at least a couple weeks where you're in good cool season growing weather and fully recovered, because it is going to be stunted,
Yeah.
it's going to be slow, and I hate to say that you would lose grass, but it's a very real possibility if it's that stressed, and you're going to start hitting it up pretty hard.
Hmm. Yep, definitely.
Absolutely. All right. Let me
I see
see. Go
another
ahead.
one
Go ahead.
here from John Cruz. He says, "Has Paul gotten the itch for making his huge yard of grass you planted look better since he's working on your property?" So Paul, if you don't know who that is the guy doing our building, and he has a YouTube channel. It's about all of the post frame building that he does and all that stuff. If you want to follow along with that, so it is called Mr. Post Frame. So check that out. But Paul and I, that's how we actually met. I don't know exactly how I met him on somewhere on Instagram, and I was like, "Yeah, this looks like a cool building." And they had like 3 acres to seed, and I was like, "This might be a cool project to do because I'm here in my little yard and I do all my fun stuff. But maybe we should do like a big project." And so I reached out to Paul then, and I said, "Would you be interested in having me come out there and helping me do that project and for content?" He's like, "Absolutely." So
Mm.
we did that, but John is talking about he's a busy guy, as pretty much all of us are at this point. But we did put in some really good tall fescue out there. I think it's about 2 acres, and he just told me today, he's like, it looks absolutely fantastic. Made it through all that summer stress and everything that we've had this year, even though he hasn't been on top of it all that much. So again, picking good elite types of cultivars is really important if you want to just let it be during the summertime and have it come back in the fall and do all that stuff. So that's what he's been excited about it. Could we make it better? Probably. We could definitely
Oh, you can
do some
always make it
things there,
better.
but it's good for him. He's happy, and again, comes back to his expectations. He wanted a huge yard that he can mow that looks fairly green, and that's what he's got.
See, there you go. And that, hey, you know what though, RK? I will say about that, the most successful part of that project that I'm aware of is the expectation setting. You know, very
Mhm.
clear and decisive expectation of what the outcome looked like, and it's taken a little bit to get there. But hey, the man looks out over his yard; he's happy as can be. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling of accomplishment. So kudos on that one. Oh, there's a great question. RK, have you thought about what you're going to do as the final mow, quote unquote, video yet? Man, it's not the series finale. Like, I don't know how to describe that. It's like when when Conan moved from New York to LA for the show, for the night show or something like that.
Mhm.
It's weird.
Let me say I don't know all of the details of it yet, but I do know the title of the video, and I do know sort of the ending. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I told Kelsey, I was like, "This is what I think I'm gonna do," and she was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "No, that's what I think I'm gonna do." So I think that I know, but I can't give too much away. Just it's gonna ruin it
All
if I do.
all I'm picturing is can I give you my guess? And this is going to be totally off base. I'm being completely facetious, so people don't take this seriously. But I think
Sure.
you'll sprayed out the lawn with multiple applications of glyphosate, and probably do so on camera just to incite the environmentalist community. I think then you'll paint
uh,
your lawn green so that it looks good, and people will think, "Wait a second, did he just unkill his lawn for the final video?" And then it'll still be dead, and with that paint and all the vapors related to it, you'll take a rip of a cigarette, which you don't smoke at all, and flick it down on the ground, and then it'll grass will light on fire, and then the house for sale sign will go up, and you'll never come back. I don't know. I think it's got a very like what did I call it here in the pre-show? We need to hashtag that Knorr noir. I think it's the
mhm.
new, it's the badass version of RK, unleashed as a character, as a meme of yourself, right? So I don't know. Hey, a man can dream. I'll storyboard it out. I'll send it all over to you.
You know,
You can have it. It's my that
uh,
script is my gift to you. Okay, my gift to you.
thank you.
All
You know, as you being the
right.
producer, I really appreciate that. I
Oh, see,
needed that.
hopefully it will, that somber and somewhat morbid, iteration of the episode will turn even more happy than it was supposed to be already. So I'm just trying to be the yin to your yang, sir. That's what I'm here to do.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Uh, let's see here. Let's see. Oh, Great Green Orange just said, "Hey, I've got 22,000 square feet of KBG and fescue mix, and it looks damn good in the spring and the fall." Well, I would expect it to up there. That's good. You got to play to the weather,
Mhm.
and you got to make it happen. So, all right, RK, how do you want to end this? I'm gonna save my seating thing for the next episode of the TurfCast, which will probably be an audio only format, because I want to dive pretty deep on that, and I should
Okay.
have some stuff to share as a part of that, some initial thoughts, results, and everything, because we're going to start it this week, large scale. Just kind of a little preface. 3+ acres bare ground, and we're going to try 6 different grow-in regimens on some soil amendment stuff, and also some hydro mulch and some seed covering stuff to mess around with
Man,
some different
you're
reps.
going after it just like I do. This is
I just
awesome.
want to know. I just wanted. I got this. That's the one thing that connects us, RK. Besides a lot of other things, but the one thing that does connect us is this insatiable need to just know, right? And then once we get it figured out, it's
Mhm.
like, oh, we can do better than that. Let's go again, right? So it's a weird tick
Once
that
you
we all
know,
have.
you still don't know. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
question.
yeah.
That's the
That's
thing.
that. That's life, man. That's life.
Yep.
So let's see here. All right, listen. Anything else you want to talk about for the good of the group? I think we took a lot of questions. Again,
I think in the
go ahead.
next episode that'll be good too, because I'm gonna hopefully be into this whole irrigation scenario that you and I have been chatting
Oh,
about, and we'll have love more of that to figure out. So that'll be good for the
those are
next episode.
deep conversations on irrigation. I mean, like sketches being exchanged back and forth. Like it's serious. Like you know, um, like our
These are
wives like,
the
wait,
you
you're
know we
talking up
it's too
late at
bad that
night
we've
talking about pipes and sprinklers and stuff.
yeah, it's too
What?
bad that we don't have like we don't live in tree houses when we were kids and we could paper airplane these over to the next one. That's
No,
what I'm
Through
seeing.
the magic of Zoom and the internet, it's actually much better than that. But I still think when we have those late night discussions, I'm pretty sure that we drink like neighbors, being each other's garage. So that still works out just fine. Thank you, technology, for that.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot to dive into, a lot to unpack. So again, if you're new and you're just popping in here, definitely want to thank you for joining the stream tonight. It's always a pleasure to get on here and talk with RK. RK, how can people jump in next time we have a video chat, which should be in just about a month here? We'll try and
Yep.
schedule it on a Monday because I don't know if there's any Monday Night Football and it's never good. It seems like they're never good anymore. But tell people how they can participate in this, and then talk a little bit about where they can find the audio version of the podcast.
Yep. So you can go over to my YouTube channel. Up in the right-hand corner, there will be a join button. So if you want to join us for the next episode here and participate in the chat, of course, you can always just watch. If you'd like to participate, we would love to have you join in and ask your questions and all that fun stuff. And then if you want to listen to our audio version, which we usually sit down on a whim and just talk about certain things which we have no plan for, and it seems to work out well, that is right on my website. So go over there. It's rhinorlawncare.com/podcast. You will see that there. And we also usually ask people ahead of time to submit some questions for that too. So be on the watch out for that. And I'm trying to think what else. I think that about covers it. So want to really uh, tell you guys that we appreciate you and appreciate everybody
Definitely.
watching and participating tonight, all the members and everything, and everybody else watching as well. We know it is the first Monday Night Football, so a lot of people are probably watching that, but I saw a lot of people here participating and really appreciate that.
We do, yeah. We're gonna get a poor heat map in Denver and Seattle, and I think that's about it. So um, it's too dry to grow grass, good grass in Denver, and it's too rainy to grow it in Seattle. So they probably were gonna watch anyway. I think.
Yeah,
But
there you go.
anyway, hey, RK, thanks as always. It was good to get on here and talk about nothing, but talk about everything for the last hour and a half or so. And we will do it again and pump this stuff out real soon. Also, before you commute me, thank you to J Pink for being the greatest producer on earth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, J Pink. And we'll catch all of you on the next stream. Hopefully, like you said, in about a month from now, but make sure you are signed up so you can participate in that. Thank you, RD, for being here, and we'll see all of you next time.